Hey, what's going on, everyone? I don't know who is going to join me tonight. I say that every time. I was supposed to do this last night, but this is kind of like an airline. When the technology says we can't go, we can't go. And it was a situation where the great Dr. T.S. Johnson and Mamiya Obsidian Ali, they were going on at 8. And this camera, well, you all saw on my community tab, this camera, for whatever reason, it was showing in the backstage. And then when I added myself to the stage, I was getting the spinning circle. And my computer decided, okay, well, we need to set the camera up right now. And I was thinking, wait a minute, we've been using this camera for the last year, the last half a year. Why do you need to set the camera up right now? And so I got to a point where things finally started working, and then I was about 45 minutes away from Dr. Johnson and Obsidian going live. At that point, I just wanted to eat and call it a night, so that's what I did. The lovely Trust. Hey, Toya, how you doing? Thank you for stopping through. Thank you for the thumbs up there. Let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube really quickly. Then I will jump in and hopefully land the plane in 1 hour. So tonight I'm going to talk about what is masculinity in 2025? Who decides and who should decide such a thing? And this is probably one of the issues of our time. What's going on with boys? What's going on with men? What's happening with boys and men? Are they withdrawing? If so, why? What's changed? What can be done about it, if anything? Please smash that like button no matter how long you stay. The equalizer is here. Sal, I was going to text you, man. I appreciate you coming in and giving your expert insight on all things financial, all things corporate, just all things. I really appreciate you coming in and doing that for me and for the stream. So I appreciate you. All right, and Sal, yeah, I know that last time I hit you up, you had some academic endeavors, but when it's possible, again, let's link up. All right, I'm gonna play my Curtis Schoon intro. Curtis Schoon is actually going live on his platform in about 45 minutes. So, and then we'll talk about masculinity, where the stream came from, and then I have 3 videos. I'm not going to show them in their entirety, but I'm going to give some commentary, and that's what my channel is right now for this one. It's current events, it's commentary, and it's discussions about what's going on in society and in the world. So I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Toya, I saw your community tab. Very lovely combination there. It's still not completely summertime here yet either. It's supposed to rain the rest of the week. All right, everybody, I'll see you on the other side. Life is not about having fun all the time, and there are no political solutions for cultural deficiencies. So, where did this topic come from? So, I'm going to admit that because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information.
That we will rush to finish things that are important so we can do things that are not. And I believe it's an immaturity there. People just don't understand that, life isn't about having fun all the time. You have to have fun sometimes. I agree. But as an adult, there's time where you have to just say, okay, listen, I got to get down to work right now. And I don't think enough of us value that time or really understand the fruits of that labor. Somehow we think things are just going to be without that kind of effort. And culturally, there's a deficiency there. That's why I always say that there's no political solution for cultural deficiencies.
So, where did this topic come from? So, I'm going to admit that uh, because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. In this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. Okay, there was something. Uh oh. Okay, folks, if you could still hear me, hold on for a second. I have a computer thing going on here. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. I'm looking for X to load up. There's something over there I want to show you guys and gals. And it didn't load up completely earlier. I saw some interesting things on X. Dr. Thunder keeps his eyes on uh, uh, TikTok and YouTube. I watch YouTube and some TikTok, and I'm on X still. Come on, X, load up for me. Load up, load up, load up. T Riddler. Okay, T Riddler. Should I say it? Should I say it? No, no food fights in my chat. Okay, well, X doesn't want to load up. So, as my best friend, one of his favorite songs is "One Monkey Don't Stop No Show." So, X, we're gonna let that go, and maybe it'll load up. But I saw two interesting uh, tweets this morning. One was of I think someone who transitioned, who worked for Starbucks, okay, and was lamenting working too hard, being overworked. And one of my favorite content creators from the entertainment and media space, where Artisan hangs out, made a joke saying that uh, all the men who died in World War I would appreciate that their sacrifice wasn't in vain. So the joke was that, okay, you're having someone of today whining and complaining and lamenting that they have to work, okay, at Starbucks for 8 hours, and the manager called off, and all these different things. And I think the person had transitioned because they had a goatee, but there was a bit of a high pitched thing in their voice. So, and the person said, "Well, a customer did misgender me." So I think the person had transitioned. So a lot of us got a kick out of that. And then there was something else going, sticking with this topic. What is masculinity in 2025? Someone clipped Cam Newton's recent interview with Pastor Jamal Bryant. And apparently, I was on the Metro. I was just reading the subtitles. Apparently, Pastor Jamal Bryant told Cam Newton that he had nice legs because Cam Newton was wearing shorts. Okay. And that was kind of awkward. So, what is masculinity in 2025? Most of you all in the chat know. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at it right now. X, boot it up for me. All right. My computer's on a slight freeze. I got to buy a new one. Hold on. Let's see. More bookmarks. Okay. What is masculinity in 2024? Then we'll take a quick look at Cam Newton and Pastor Jamal Bryant. What is masculinity in 2025? The GOAT has entered the room. Salute to Passport OG. And I hope I don't get a strike for this. In any case, fair use, fair use. This is 2 minutes long. So what is masculinity in 2025?
People wonder why we need a union at Starbucks, and I am literally about to quit. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do it, but, like, I really want to. I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cut on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and on weekends, they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday.
So are you guys sensing that there's something, this looks like a man, but there's something feminine about this person? Okay. Are you guys sensing that too? Fair use, fair use. Maggie, thank you for stopping through. I buddied up with your partner in crime on Saturday, the nameless protagonist. We shouted you out and talked about some of the work you all are doing. But is there anything, are you sensing anything unmasculine about this person? Fair use, fair use. I hope I don't get a strike for this, but this is on X. I don't think this is anything official.
I'm like 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out.
So Aquateki, there's your answer right there.
And there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers. We don't have fair scheduling. Managers don't care about us. Our manager was supposed to come in this weekend, and he took himself off the schedule, so he wouldn't be able to be held accountable for calling out. He just literally tore down the schedule that he was scheduled on and put up a new schedule where he wasn't on the schedule. Also, he couldn't have even seen that he was scheduled in the first place because he didn't want to be held accountable for.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? All right, this is almost done. Fair use, fair use.
Not wanting to come in. They don't want to help us. We need a union because this can't happen. This can't happen. We need fair scheduling. We need managers to hold themselves accountable for helping their workers. They refuse to turn mobile orders off. We need the liberty to be able to do that because there's so many mobile orders and I need to get through all of them. And then people are yelling at me because they don't have their orders ready and they don't know what to do. And a customer was misgendering me today, like really badly. I didn't have their order ready. And so they were just like talking like each other. And they're like, she's clearly incompetent. I have a full mustache and beard. What the fuck?
Okay, so I saw that earlier. I thought you guys might find it interesting, and I thought this would be a nice lead into tonight's discussion. Sometimes things get delayed because maybe there's a reason why things get delayed, and I didn't see this until this morning. So maybe the universe works in certain ways. So, what is masculinity in 2025? Is it having a mustache? This person said I got misgendered several times. Okay, and don't you see my mustache? Okay, this is on X. The Critical Drinker says I'd love to travel back in time and show this to a World War I soldier just so they know their sacrifices weren't in vain. Okay, fair use, fair use. I'm making a notification for that from the YouTube Pilot Bureau. But let's take a look at what Pastor Jamal Bryant said to Cam Newton. Hold on. And I think everybody in the chat is familiar with Pastor Jamal Bryant. Maggie says, when does the name of this video drop, Dr. Dunbar? Oh, Maggie, we did a live stream on Saturday on my STEM channel. So that's in the description box. That's there. Speaking of masculine men, Panthro, Officer Charles Faulkner has entered the building. Ooh, speaking of masculine men, please smash that like button if you haven't. They don't get more masculine than Charles. So Carl Weathers, let's see. Oh, is this Travis Hunter? Is this masculine in 2025? This has been making the rounds. Congratulations to Travis Hunter. Okay, let me mute that. But is this masculine in 2025? There's Travis. This has been making the rounds. He's celebrating his marriage there with what's her name? Leanne Leaney. Okay, so a lot of folks think that this is gonna blow up at some point, but Travis was despite his prowess on the football field, he's been dragged through the mud for his association with this lady, now his wife. And everybody thinks that she's gonna take his dough and take his money and break his heart. But Travis, despite his prowess in the football field, you know, videos like this is I don't know, this isn't very masculine to me. He's got this wiggle and that grin, and he's kind of going like this. Is that masculine? All right. Cam Newton and Jamal Bryant, and then I'll move on. Okay. I think it's captured in my likes. Carl Weathers, Louis Gossett Jr., Travis. Oh, here we go. All right, guys, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it for you guys. I'm going to play the audio. I might get a notification at 5 o'clock in the morning that you know your this is not ad suitable. But keep in mind, Pastor Jamal Bryant, he's a pastor, and I think he's over thousands and thousands of people. So this is a leader. This is a leader. So he's leading men. He's leading men and women, and people are looking at him for an example. So this says. So Curtis Goon, in my intro, he says he replaced Eddie Long, was rumored to indulge with Transformers in Baltimore, where he's from, another satanic do boy for the ruling elite. And then Dom Luker tweeted, liberal pastor Jamal Bryant appeared to make former NFL star Cam Newton uncomfortable when he kept complimenting Newton's legs over and over. So keep in mind, Bryant was front and center during the election, trying to help Madam Vice President Harris win the White House. So he was helping that Democratic side. So, all right, guys, we're going to risk it. Hopefully I don't get a strike or something.
The other day, but who's keeping count?
I'm not.
Other than that, man,
you got pretty legs, man.
Oh, man.
And they lanolated.
Man, listen, I'm back working out.
You put shea butter, Jergens.
Oh, you see that?
They're glowing in the dark.
I'm just
Y'all
nourished.
zoom in. Do not skip leg day.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Sometimes you got to remind people, like, it's okay, but the work has to be done.
Oh, listen, it's evident. It pays off.
Know what I'm saying? I'm back eating right, trying to live right.
Yes.
I done purged my tongue since last speaking with you.
Yeah.
So I don't curse no more. I try not to curse no more.
Wow.
I had a flare up the other day, but
Yes.
who's keeping count?
I'm not.
Other than that, man, life's good.
You got pretty legs, man.
Oh, man.
And they lanolated.
Man, listen, I'm back working out.
You put shea butter, Jergens.
Oh, you see that?
They're glowing in the dark.
I'm just.
All right, that's enough of that. Pastor Jamal Bryant telling Cam Newton, you got pretty legs, man. Okay, Passport OG. He says what in my Riley voice. Okay. Let me try to stay on topic here and stay on time. All right, so I think that's a nice lead in. So What is masculinity in 2025? Who decides? Is it Jamal Bryant? Is it the Starbucks barista? Is it Travis Hunter? Is it something else? Is it Officer Charles Faulkner? What is masculinity in 2025? Me and the nameless protagonist. So I just told this to Maggie. We did a live stream on Saturday on my science and technology channel. For those of you who don't know, I have a science and technology channel where I talk nothing but science and technology. So me and the nameless protagonist, shout out to the nameless protagonist, we talked about the mouse Utopia experiments run by Dr. John Calhoun, um, which which predicted population growth, and then what Dr. Calhoun saw repeatedly was population collapse. Okay, and mice were used as surrogates for humans. Now, that live stream is below in the description box. But one of the things me and Nameless were speculating on was what's the role of culture on biology? What's the role of culture on our species? What's the role of culture on our DNA? What's the role of culture? All the social movements, all of the political movements, all of the attempts to flatten everything and make genders the same. What's the effect of all that? What's the effect of confusing the gender roles? And once again, what's masculinity in 2025? People are looking at this right now. A couple of weeks ago, I did a stream on Tamron Hall, thanking her for at, saying that we can't leave the boys behind. Um, there's been fear over the last 2 to 3 years over individuals like Andrew Tate. Apparently, a lot of younger men are falling out of. They have no more interest in mating now. Things are in the Black community and in other communities. Things are taking a turn that none of us have ever seen before. And a lot of this is probably linked to how the gender roles have been changed, our definitions of masculinity, our definitions of femininity. Okay. Um, Regardless of what you consider masculine in 2025 or feminine in 2025, if one half of your species falls off or loses interest, then the entire thing is going to collapse in on itself. Nicholas Eberstadt, the author of Men Without Work, he said it early in this book. Uh, um, a country will only thrive and grow as its men go. Okay, so there's a danger to punishing your boys and your men for being boys and men while propping up the female side. There's nothing wrong with encouraging women and girls to achieve, but if you're continuously tamping down your masculine sphere and making that a zero sum game, making it a zero sum game where there can only be one winner, then you're going to get a lot of entropy, a lot of chaos and disorder, which is something me and Nameless talked about on Saturday. So my book is a book about basketball and what sports teach you. But as I thought about this, as I thought about marketing, and as I was thinking, how does this relate to some of the things that Dr. T.S.N. Johnson and Obsidian talked about last night? When I was a youngster, I was looking to be a part of something. When I was a young man, I was looking to be a part of a group. That's a part of this story. It's not just about playing basketball. I was looking to join a hunting pack. Shout out to the master teacher BGS. I was looking to be a part of something for a young man that matters. There weren't a lot of men around to model, and many things I've had to learn in terms of manhood and masculinity. I had to learn those as I went along throughout my life. So there are consequences, as we will hear, for young men not getting those things early, and those things catch up with everybody. Okay. So some rhetorical questions. What is masculinity in 2025? Who decides and who should? Um, are there things that young men, as they transition into adulthood and eldership, are there things that they're just supposed to know, or are there things that need to be taught, to be passed on? Okay, are there things that they just magically learn, or are there things that have to be taught from mentors and older male figures? I told the story last year about my father. Shout out to my father. My father's father died when he was 18. We're in between Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I remember about a year or so ago, my father was seeing somebody, and getting a little personal here, but I remember being at dinner with my father and this woman, and at the end of dinner, my father took her coat and he handed her her coat. Okay, and that stood out to me. Okay, that stood out to me. All right, you guys know why that stood out to me. He took her coat and he handed her her coat. What would have been the better thing to do? Anybody? Maggie, thank you for subscribing to that channel. What would have been the better thing, the more appropriate thing to do? If you're dating someone, if you're with a significant other, what do you do? What are you supposed to do? Okay, for the sake of time, I'll probably just say it. Please smash that like button if you haven't. Akuseki, there you go. You're supposed to put the coat on. The gentlemanly thing to do is to put the coat, your date's coat on. Take it off and put it on. But then the question is, my father right now, he's in his 70s. Why didn't he know? And Dad, if you're watching this, no, we're just using this. I'm using this as a teaching tool. If he, the 70-year-old man, why didn't he do it? Why didn't he know? The answer is pretty simple. It could only be two things. Either someone taught him and he just didn't listen and didn't remember, or nobody taught him. Okay, but either way, it hits a certain way when, as a grown man, you don't do certain things. Points get deducted. All right, three videos here. Parts of three videos I'm going to show, and then I'm going to wrap up. Now, the other question I'm going to ask here. This is a rhetorical question. Masculinity in 2025. Who decides what that is, and who should? I'm going to share a little secret with you guys. I was intimately involved with someone at one point. I'll just keep that discreet. But she shared with me that she determined my masculinity. Yeah, she said I determine what your masculinity is. That landed in a certain place. It didn't hit right, and I kind of scratched my head and I said, you know what? Something about this sounds wrong. Okay, number one, that's a lot of power for someone to have over you to determine whether or not you're a man or you're masculine or not. That's a lot of power for a woman, a lady, even if you're dating her, even if you're married to her. That's a lot of power to have. But this was told to me. I determine your masculinity. Okay. And as I was thinking about that, the one thing I will say is that I'd make a bad entry on that balloon pop show because I read books. Okay, I like to sit and read books. Right now I'm reading The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and I also finished. This is very esoteric knowledge. Awakening the Master Masculine by Master Yao. Okay, I'm going to be careful with sharing this because there's a lot of esoteric knowledge in here, and I think that if you really want this, maybe you should go dig it up. But both of these books, this is written by someone who's Anglo. I'm enjoying this. This is someone who's melanated. Two things they both say in these books is that there are no more rites of passage in this country. Okay, the culture we live in, there are no rites of passage designating when a boy becomes a man and designating when a woman becomes a woman. Okay. I mean, do we even know today what a woman is or what a man is? Look at that Starbucks clip I just showed. So there's no more rites of passage for boys and girls. The closest things you have to those are in the Jewish community, the bar mitzvah, and in the Latin American communities, the quinceañeras. But for the rest of us, you know, you turn 18, you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to enlist. The girls start ovulating, the boys, we grow chest hair, you go to college. But when do you become a man? When do you come of age? When does a woman become a woman? We have no more of that in this country. And I think everybody is worse off for it. Okay, the first two clips are going to come from Dad Saves America. That's one of my favorite channels. I'm sure you guys remember me showing some of those clips. Let me load this one up. You guys keep commenting there. Okay, Microsoft Word. All right. Come on. Copy, copy, copy. Let's try this. Copy. All right. My computer is playing well tonight. Knock on wood. All right. So I have time-stamped these. And his name keeps coming up. I mean, years ago, before he passed away, Kevin Samuels was the boogeyman, and then Andrew Tate became the boogeyman. I think in some ways, what Myron Gaines, he's the boogeyman. Myron went to University of South Carolina and was talking about women should have less. So, but Andrew Tate now is the current boogeyman. So let me skip to 11 minutes. This one is called, okay, no, that's Meritocracy. That's from Heather. But we're gonna get to Heather. Let's see, where's the other one? Okay, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. You guys keep commenting there in the chat. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. This is another thought piece. I do lots of these. Okay, this one is from Dad Saves America. I'm going to play half. Let's go out to 11 minutes. So think about this. You know, there are lots of young men growing up in this country without dads, and the people scratch their heads and say, you know, he's not developing. He hasn't come into his masculinity yet. Okay, he's not developing into a man. Why is that? Well, he doesn't. There are no men around in his immediate proximity. All right, fair use, fair use. This one is called "We Demonized Masculinity and Made Boys Afraid to Be Themselves." John Popola's guest is Erica Comisar. This is below in case you guys want to watch the entire thing, but for the sake of time, I'm cutting it in half. Fair use, fair use.
Human dignity, universal human dignity.
Yes.
And I think that one of the things that has sort of pushed to the macro scale is exactly what you're talking about. The destabilizing force, the sense of an actual foreign aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
And that the president saying, I will protect you, like it's primordial, the sense in which that connected with people, I think.
So right there, they're talking about during the campaign, the presidential election, or shortly thereafterwards, President Trump made those comments about "I'll protect you," and he got blowback from that. As we'll listen to right here, President Trump got blowback from that for saying to the women that he would protect them from the illegals.
Not just
Protective aggressive. It was like, what happened to this? This was part of our evolutionary sort of way of being for millennium, for thousands of years. And what happened to it in just 75 years? You can't turn around evolution in 75 years. It doesn't work like that, right? So
now, how do you? Well, I have two questions. Let me start with the why. It's easy to say we as the society is very socializing, like definitionally, of responsibility. Why did this happen this way? How do you understand the causal forces? Is it whacked out academics taking things to the extreme and overtaking the academia? Like, it isn't like we all woke up and had a different way of thinking about this stuff. There are players and institutions and forces that have made this happen. So why? How do you understand what's taken place?
So he's asking about the rewiring of the genders. Okay, I got in trouble one time for saying I think I might have said I read a passage from The Richer Sex, and I said women were re-engineered or something like that. The same +1 who said I determine your masculinity, she got upset with me saying that in a video. But rewiring, he's asking, how did this whole thing get rewired? Fair use, fair use.
well, again, I benefited from the feminist movement, but I would say the feminist movement was a little bit misdirected in its telling women that they should become more like men. Because from the beginning, they should have said, men and women are equally important to society. And you have a right to have choices. If you don't want to get married and have children, you should have that choice. You should have that choice to be out in the work world or to work, or, but it didn't, it undermined the differences between men and women. And that was the beginning of it, right? And so, as soon as we undermine the differences, so again, women became more like men.
Women became more like men. It's powerful when you hear a woman say that. Women became more like men. Fair use, fair use.
And then men were expected to become more like women. But it seems to me that women slipped into the role of masculinity more easily than men slipped into the role of femininity.
Women slipped into the role of masculinity more easily than men slipped into the role of femininity. Should those things have ever been swapped?
And there's a reason, I think, for it, which is that what was expected of men for millennium is that they were the aggressors, right?
Yeah.
They also had to perform, right? You have to perform sexually.
Oh, how about that? Men have to perform. You have to perform sexually. It's different. It hits different when a woman says it, right?
Women don't have to perform sexually.
Oh,
Men have to perform sexually.
let me play that one more time.
Right? You have to perform sexually. Women don't have to perform sexually. Men have to perform sexually. That involves aggression. There's an aggressive, so we call it primal scene when children walk in on their parents having sex, because children perceive of
Freud
it.
stuff now.
Yeah, children perceive of it as aggressive. They get scared of it because it looks like daddy's doing something terrible to mommy. And the truth is, it's an aggressive act. It's a loving aggressive act in most cases, unless it's rape. It's a loving aggressive, but it is an aggressive act. So men were always the aggressors. It was expected that men would step forward, ask women out, that men would take the initiative, that men would perform sexually.
So this point right here, in terms of doing the forbidden dance, yeah, if you as a man, you're expected to take charge and just take charge and assume the lead when doing the forbidden dance. And if you're not, if you don't know how to do that, then yeah, that you're expected to know how to do that. Fair use, fair use.
And so that was a very important part of men's identity. You take that away from men, and then you have those young men sitting in their bedroom, being afraid to be the aggressors, being afraid to take the initiation with a woman. Not only that they'll reject him, but that, you know, their masculinity being diminished, they won't be able to perform. I can't tell you how many young men are on ED medication.
I was just thinking this. It was the next question I was going to ask.
So apparently, a lot of young men today are on erectile dysfunction medication. Okay, this is part way contributing to our birth rate crisis. Fair use, fair use.
I've read about this, and it is, as an older guy, it's shocking to me that you're in your 20s and you're going to struggle to get an erection.
Well,
Like,
there are websites now to provide medications online. Won't name them, but it's because there's such a demand. I have a psychiatrist I refer young men to who specifically deals with the emotional aspects of ED. It's not physical. You could say it's organic because, you know, the emotions affect one's physical performance, but it's emotional. So again, you know, men without their identity are lost. These young men are lost.
So I'm going to be discreet here and I'll say, yes, your partner. Uh-oh. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I am frozen here on my end. All right, everybody. Sorry about that. I froze. So you probably I probably froze out there to you. I was frozen back here. All right. I was making a joke. I was saying I'm going to be discreet here. Which partner does matter. Okay. As she just described, a lot of this intimacy is emotional. All right. Fair use, fair use.
They can't perform. And what we don't understand, and we're starting to understand because there's more research going on, when oxytocin levels go up, meaning when men are feminized, their testosterone goes down.
All right, Passport OG, shout out to Princella. We're doing some endocrinology here. We're talking about oxytocin and vasopressin and testosterone. Shout out to Princella. Fair use, fair use.
Why? Because the investment in mammals, because we're just mammals,
Mhm.
the investment in mammals in nurturing diminishes the investment in mating. So when we nurture and become more feminine as men, I'm not a man, but your testosterone levels go down. So what's happening is there's less sex going on and there's less good sex going on. And men are having a harder time performing, and they're needing to take these medications to perform.
Well, I understand. Is this part of the sort of the dad brain effect? So, you know, when Warren Farrell has talked to me about this, and he writes about it in his book that, you know, we as men, I experienced it when my son was born. There's you get rewired.
Mm-hmm.
And you do become more nurturing. You change what you are when you become a dad.
But the way that dads are nurturing, which is playful tactile stimulation, resilience building, encouraging exploration, separation. So what we're finding is with these single mothers by choice, women who go out to a sperm bank and, you know, say, I can't find a man. This is like a phenomenon.
Okay, let me start that over. This is going to be everybody's favorite part right here. Fair use, fair use. Single and pregnant by choice. Fair use.
Building, encouraging exploration, separation. So what we're finding is with these single mothers by choice, women who go out to a sperm bank and, say, I can't find a man. This is like a phenomenon. There's plenty of men around. I can't find a man to love.
Who's 6'5" and makes 150K and has a PhD because I have my master's.
Right. So
everybody's listening to the manosphere now. That's a manosphere talking point. All right, Charles says, my last comment, Doc. Okay. He says that's due to because a lot of young men now have a fourth of the testosterone of their grandfathers. All right. Let me wrap this one up.
I'm going to go to a sperm bank. Now they go to a sperm bank. They have a baby on their own. These babies can attach to the mothers, but there's no one to help with the separation because fathers were always the vehicle of separation. Mothers were the attachment object, love object. Fathers were the separation, love object. So without fathers around, babies sleep in their mother's beds for a very long time. They don't learn to separate in the same way. They don't have a model and learn how to be masculine from.
How about that? Fathers are separation agents, and the children without the fathers, the children sleep in the mother's bed a little too long. Fair use, fair use.
Babies sleep in their mother's beds for a very long time. They don't learn to separate in the same way. They don't have a model and learn how to be masculine from a masculine role model. They don't learn to regulate their aggression. And so this is a problem. But obviously, the biggest problem is that, you have little boys out there not learning to be boys and not learning to be men.
Well, you don't find any role models in school, so this is the sort of terrifying feedback loop of leaving the world in fatherlessness, right? It's like, so you have fatherlessness, it creates this imbalanced, psychologically fragile, broken situation that then repeats itself because now you're a worse mate. So you're getting shunted off into incel territory.
That's right. Because if you're, again, incel territory is limbo. It's purgatory. It's neither here nor there. That's really what it is. You're not a girl, but you don't feel like a boy. I mean, people that listen to this are going to get upset with that, but that is the truth. Because we're not allowing boys to be boys, not awful boys, not toxic masculinity, just protective, aggressive, taking initiative, allowing boys to be masculine and not punishing them for it. So they're feeling they can't go there, but they're not really girls. So they're stuck in their rooms in purgatory.
So they're not girls, but they're not boys either. So what are they? If you're not a girl, if you're not a boy, what are you? Is there something that fits that definition? You're not a girl, you're not a boy. Well, what are you? Okay. I couldn't imagine being a youngster today and living through this as a young person. This is very, very different from how we as Gen Xers grew up and started experiencing the world. We at least had the two poles, masculine and feminine. Even without rites of passage, we still knew what those things were back in the 80s and the 90s, and there wasn't an epidemic or erectile dysfunction in your 20s wasn't prevalent when I was in my 20s. All right, guys. This one, I'm going to sandwich this one in the middle. Get ready for a little bit of a Karen energy here. Heather McDonald might offend some of you guys. She's offended some people for her conservative views. and her views on the police. But she was also on with Dad Saves America, and they talked about gender and meritocracy. And I think something we can distill out of here once again is the difference between men and women, because today pop culture, our institutions of higher learning, it's hard today to say what is a man and what is a woman and what dictates the two. Okay, there's just a proclivity and an inclination to flatten everything. Shout out to Dr. T.S. Johnson for his book, Solutions for Black Misandry, Flat Blackness, and Black Male Death. One of the premises of this book is that there's been an attempt to flatten Black male issues so that they're synonymous with all Black issues, female issues, Black male issues. That's what the significance of that term flatness means here. All right, Heather McDonald, get ready for some Karen energy, guys. Okay, let's see. Gender disparity isn't discrimination. So she says some very interesting things about what designates men versus women and what makes us different, which is kind of taboo to talk about today. Unless you're hanging out with Officer Faulkner. Everything is fair game then. All right, guys. Karen energy.
Of it. I don't think that any institution that is based on knowledge and the accomplishment of knowledge should admit me simply because of my gonads. If I don't have competitive qualifications, I shouldn't be there. And I am under no delusion that I have been the so-called beneficiary of gender preferences forever. I have
fair use. So she admits that she's benefited from gender preferences.
Never been excluded from anything because of my sex. That to believe that as a female today is to be completely deluded again, because you look at Fox News, for example, it has about a 50-50 male to female ratio of on-air talent. That is completely artificially engineered.
I think the ratio of attractive blondes is a little out of step with the population as a whole, though, on Fox.
Yes, define.
Okay, so the point they're making here is that if you watch Fox News, if you do, I mean, if Fox News offends you, I understand, but there's the ratio of men to women there. She's saying it's not reflective of the general population. So there are more women there on those panels than actual the actual demographics. Fair use.
Find attractive the bimbo. We know.
Just saying. There's
I
a difference. There's a different selection criteria going on for TV.
Absolutely. Well, at Fox, thanks to Roger Ailes. But I go around collecting natural experiments to test this theory of
the magnesium in your cabinet is not only filled with heavy metals, but it also can be making your age faster. And
of gender bias. And the theory of gender bias is the racist or the sexist gatekeepers. That, you know, if you have an institution that is not 50-50, it's because they're sexist gatekeepers, you know, at Viacom or Hollywood or whatever. So let's find institutions with no gatekeepers and see how the gender ratios pan out. And there's several of them, but one of the most interesting is Wikipedia. Wikipedia, it's blind. Anybody can edit. There's no gatekeeping. You just enter at will, and nobody knows who you are. It's anonymous.
So now she's talking about Wikipedia, which is not considered a reliable news source, but she's going to say something interesting about who uploads, who updates, and adds most of the information to Wikipedia, and who doesn't.
Also, there's no history of Wikipedia. You know, the excuse for lack of 50-50 parity among chess grandmasters even though, again, it's meritocratic now, is, well, there was a history of discrimination and females are so oppressed by that history, so they can't go forward. Wikipedia is very new. It's not as if there's a history of long-term discrimination against female editors at Wikipedia. Well, to the absolute chagrin of the lefties who run Wikipedia, it's like 90% male. Without any gatekeepers, nobody is keeping the females out. It turns out,
Where'd you get that data from? How do you know that?
from Wikipedia, this was like a huge scandal several years ago.
Okay. So they actually reported this.
Yeah. And
The Wikimedia Foundation.
it turns out that females do not have that same drive for facts, for thoroughness. Even the female entries like Manalo Blahnik, Stiletto Heels, are very thin.
Charles, I know you like that one. Okay, so guys, so in general, we're speaking in generalities here. I work with some very sharp women, but she's making a point based upon the data at Wikipedia that men tend to be more fact-based. They're more active on that site in terms of gathering information, updating the information, and loading it up. Okay.
Compared to what you would expect. There's other natural experiments. Anybody can write a letter to the editor of a newspaper. There's no gatekeepers. Nobody's saying who's, you can just send it in. That's about 2-to-1 females. Who subscribes to the New Republic, to the Atlantic, to public journals? No gatekeepers. You can subscribe. It also skews heavily male, because males on average, and I'm not saying there's not lots of exceptions, then your daughter and your granddaughter are going to be the most accomplished physicists and public figures in the world. But on average, males are more externally oriented. So when you look at Fox and you see the 50-50, that is engineered, because that does not reflect the actual pool of who is most interested in public affairs. And I'm always amazed at, like, there's still like conservative magazines that are, thank God, holding out against this, like National Review. You can look at the table of contents, or National Affairs. It's all male contributors, and they would love to have more females. So anyway, this type.
There are these sort of generic rules of thumb, turns of phrase in this world of psychology as it pertains to gender, right? That women on average are more interested in people, men more interested in things.
Yeah.
Men on average are more interested in abstractions and spatial relations, which is where the STEM and political and ideological stuff comes in, which is probably also where the philosophy and the history of some of that kind of, on average.
Yeah.
But those averages, I think, is it James Damore who had done a paper on this and sort of showed that, like, the averages when you get to the extremes end up mattering a lot.
Okay, they're going to get into the numbers here. I'm going to let this one go just a little bit further, then I need to get towards the end. Fair use.
Right? The sort of bell curve at the tail where you get the truly radically brilliant crazies. If the average is off, you're going to have a really disproportionate number of truly exceptional people. And it isn't proportional. It's there's some dynamic there about. Are you familiar with sort of some of that?
Yeah.
Distribution.
This is what got Larry Summers pushed out of Harvard. It turns out that at the tails ends of the distribution curve, males predominate among math dummies. There's a lot more males than females who are completely clueless. They never have been able to add 2 and 2. And at the far end of the math genius level, males outnumber females, according to a very inadequate measure, when the SATs used to measure in 50-point increments, and they got rid of that because of the usual racial. We don't like what it tells us about the racial distribution.
So she's pointing out that on this math distribution, the geniuses are mostly male.
But at the top 50, which is again hardly the tail end, males outnumbered females like 2.5 to 1. So again, the only allowable explanation is the exact parallel for race. The only allowable explanation for the fact that the Google engineering department is overwhelmingly male, is discrimination against all of these qualified females that are equally good at doing the most abstract physics and engineering as males, but they're just being kept out because Google would rather have a subpar collection of engineers than allow females to come in.
The
So-
quality of the Google search results suggests that that is
We should-
indeed a problem.
Something's a problem. Well, I don't know if females.
So, okay, well, let's go a little bit further. What she's talking about. Okay, T Riddler. No food fighting in my chat. He says, I don't see how she's a Karen, Doc. Okay, well, maybe I've mischaracterized her, but this seems okay. I never met Heather McDonald. I wouldn't mind meeting her one day. She's a writer. I'm a writer, but the energy is very, very well, okay. All right, T Riddler, thank you. I'll just leave that there.
Females would make it much worse. We should get. We'll return to James Damore in an instant, and his big problem was talking about neuroticism, but so this is like a scandal. So Larry Summers was at a conference. This is former president of Harvard, who was Clinton's Treasury Secretary, big economist. He said this is a conference supposed to be asking difficult questions. So
I think is Larry on the Asperger spectrum? If he isn't, he's Asperger's adjacent, because I've met him and it's like,
could be. He speaks his mind. He's not gonna. Yeah. I interviewed him a few times for the Hamas hysteria on campus. But anyway.
So Larry Summers, what they're going to get to is he got in trouble. He got in trouble for saying that there were differences between men and women.
So he said, well, maybe, there may be other reasons, such as personal preference. Males and females have different capacity, interests in, being in a computer lab at 2 a.m. eating cold crusts of pizza because they're so involved in coding. And, maybe there's something in the distribution of high-end skills. So Nancy Hopkins, a biologist at MIT, she famously afterwards she had to run out because she was about to throw up, because hearing that there may be differences, or hearing somebody say that there may be differences in the innate averages of math skills, was so traumatic to her that she could not be in the same room.
She's a biology professor?
She's a biology professor at MIT. So anyway, the Harvard faculty rose up in absolute revolt against Larry Summers for daring to even suggest that anything other than sexism explains the lack of 50-50 proportionality. Summers, to his immense discredit, apologized. He brought in a whole raft of new gender-based programs, but it was too little too late, even though so he ended up. James Damore, the hapless, naive little lamb. I was at a conference with him once, and you couldn't.
Okay, I'm going to stop that there, but you get in trouble. She talked about some of the subtle differences as it relates to the genders on average in terms of academics and subject specialization. And Harvard's in the news right now. They're at war with the current presidential administration. And there Larry Summers couldn't say, okay, well, it might be something in the distribution that's causing more of a male participation in these STEM fields. And he got tarred and feathered for saying that. So at many of our institutions of higher learning, it's hard to say what a man is versus what a woman is, what masculinity is versus femininity. All right, this stream was inspired by this last one. I'm going to show this last one. Who here has heard of Robert Greene? Robert Greene. Who's heard of Robert Greene? Anybody? Robert Greene. Anybody? T. Riddler, I know you're familiar with Robert Greene. Robert Greene, anybody? Going once, going twice. Passport OG got it. He wrote the 48 Laws of Power. He wrote Seduction. He wrote Mastery. And with Curtis, 50 Cent Jackson, he wrote the 49th Law. Or should I say, they wrote the 49th Law. This is a good book. It's very dense. But there are some very, very valuable teaching points in this book. I recommend at least getting a copy for yourself. But I enjoy listening to Robert talk, and he weighed in on masculinity in 2025. What is it? Who decides who should? Is it your girlfriend? Is it your college professor? Should they decide if you're masculine or not? Is it your army drill sergeant? Who decides what's masculine? What should you shoot for in terms of being masculine? Well, in this last short video I'm going to show, he says something that sounds eerily familiar to something Book of Alpharonomy says, and even Alpha Male Strategies. Something he says. He says something that eerily is similar to what they say. And then I'm going to wrap the stream up. I don't know how Dr. Thunder does this every day without getting, well, he says he is shadow banned. But this is the Dr. Thunder model. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. And Robert gives Andrew Tate his flowers in this video. So as I said in the beginning, Andrew Tate's name keeps coming up for someone boys should not aspire to be like. Well, Robert mentions Andrew Tate in this discussion. This one is only 5 minutes, guys, so we're going to wrap up soon. What is masculinity in 2025? Who is it? What is it? Who decides? And he just like Uncle Rom, Robert Greene is a stroke survivor. So he had a stroke years ago. Passport OG says, okay, all right, 5 minutes, guys. This one is 5 minutes. Fair use, fair use. Real versus fake masculinity. And as we listen to this, think about Arlette's balloon pop show, where guys are discarded for the way their pants fit, or whether or not their energy is wrong. This actually is also parallel to some of the things Jason Black says on The Business. Fair use, fair use.
You want to feel kind of strong and anchored in yourself. Now, that's not so easy in this world because a lot of people see masculinity as something negative, whereas it's actually something very, very positive. It's this kind of energy that has built cities, that has invented things, that has created civilization. Not that women did not have a huge role in that as well, but there's...
So throughout this video, Robert has to give that disclaimer. Not that women haven't done this as well. Not that women haven't contributed to this also. He says that repeatedly during this video.
Something extremely positive about masculine energy. The lack of male role models in the world, as opposed to the kind of Andrew Tates and the people that get a lot of publicity for what I would call, and what others have called, kind of performative masculinity, where you're kind of creating the illusion of it. You're using all of the signs that indicate masculinity, somebody who's really out there, who's insulting people, who's really aggressive. And a lot of that's just performative, and it's actually very empty.
Guys, I haven't really watched Andrew Tate's content from front to back. Would you consider Andrew Tate's content performative masculinity? More show than substance? What would you consider it?
And I'll tell you what, when I see somebody who's like that, who is so trying so hard to project a masculine image in the sense of yelling, being overly dramatic, putting people down, being kind of bullying, I think, my God, what a weakling, what a little insecure baby. I look at those people, and if you say, you can imagine them when they were 3 years old and how desperate they were to get attention and how kind of weak that is. So I want you to think of what it means to be a man and to be masculine. And of course, there's a range, and people are, have all different kinds of forms of it. And I don't want to preach this is the only way, but you want to think of it as a kind of inner power, a kind of self-control that you have. You want to feel kind of strong and anchored in yourself. Now, that's not so easy in this world because a lot of people see masculinity as something negative, whereas it's actually something very, very positive. It's this kind of energy that has built cities, that has invented things, that has created civilization. Not that women did not have a huge role in that as well.
There was his second disclaimer there. Not that women haven't had a role in this too. So everybody, people are looking at this now. People are saying, okay, what's happening to the boys? Why are they not developing? Even in your more liberal think tanks like the Aspen Institute, they're looking at this. Everybody's looking at this now. Fair use, fair use.
But there's something extremely positive about masculine energy. It's energy that's ambitious, that wants to make things. So you're somebody that wants to make and do and create things, not just talk and talk and talk and talk, okay? But the other thing is when I look at these people who are performing masculinity, one thing you'll notice is they can't stand any kind of criticism. If anybody criticizes them, they get enraged, right? They're so weak. And in fact, they have to go to reach a level where they have to make sure nobody can criticize them. They shut off all access. They have interviews where nobody can ask any questions that are possibly negative. And I look at that as, if you're really strong, if you're kind of like a samurai warrior, you want fights. You want those sword fights. You want people challenging you. You want to take criticism. It makes you stronger. Probably the greatest boxer that I ever knew growing up as a kid was Muhammad Ali. And what made a Muhammad Ali so great was Joe Frazier was having a really strong adversary that he can measure himself against. So having adversaries, having conflict where you just don't get hysterical, where you feel so insecure that you have to put people down or you have to get away from them, that's not strength. That is complete weakness.
You could argue that Muhammad Ali was masculine in a toxic way. His confidence, his bravado, his arrogance. You could argue that Muhammad Ali was a toxic masculinist. Okay, even though it's what made him great by today's standards.
So you feel strong inside. You can take criticism. You feel confident. You feel that it's a positive. These are positive virtues. You don't have to talk a lot. You have a kind of a quiet energy, and people are drawn to that. I noticed, for instance, now this will sound kind of contradictory or not what you think, but I remember when I did my book with 50 Cent, when he you might think that he's kind of one of those people that performs masculinity, but in real life, when you're around him, he's not like that at all. That's kind of a role that he plays. He's actually very calm. And when you see him in like a group situation, he's got this very calm energy and all eyes, he draws all the attention towards him. That's the kind of thing that I've noticed in certain men that are very confident and very secure about them. They don't have to talk a lot. They don't have to perform, but they just know who they are and they're comfortable with it, and it draws a lot of attention. So the main thing is a sense of inner strength, a sense of security that you don't need to prove yourself. The way that money, by how big your cars are and how fast they are and how expensive they are, it's not by bragging and yelling, it's by making things. That's how you gain your confidence. That's what makes
Okay. So it's not by It's not determined by the number of women you seduce, the kind of car you drive. He's about to close out with it's what you make, it's what you build. What did the women on the Pop the Balloon show, what did they prioritize? In your own personal life, what, when dealing with the opposite gender, what have they prioritized? Okay.
It's by making things. That's how you gain your confidence. That's what makes you a man. You create things, you build a business, you make things with your hands, you write a book, you do something, you're productive, and you make things. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, that's what made men who they are, building things, creating things with their hands. I hope I've spelled it out. These are kind of what I consider to be male masculine virtues. And I think that's very important in this day and age to kind of promote those kind of values.
All right, guys, that's all I've got. So his, you know what? I'm going to play that part one more time. Because it begs the question, is it the number of women you seduce? Is it your car? Is it your ability to fight? Let's listen to that last part one more time.
By bragging and yelling. It's by making things. That's how you gain your confidence. That's what makes you a man. You create things, you build a business, you make things with your hands, you write a book, you do something, you're productive, and you make things. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, that's what made men who they are, building things, creating things with their hands. I hope I've spelled it out. These are kind of what I consider to be male masculine virtues. And I think that's very important in this day and age to kind of promote those kind of values.
All right. Before I wrap up, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Okay, so his assertion was that's what for hundreds of thousands of years, that's what men were. That's what made men men. Okay. Not some of the things we hear today. Okay, a real man with this, a real man with that. You know, your pants are off, your hair is off, your jeans are off. The kind of men that he just described, those are your builders, those are your producers, those are your guys who make things and create things and invent things. Those are your smart guys. Those are your hard working guys. Not necessarily your most swagged out guys, not necessarily your most suave guys, but it's the guys designing the infrastructure, building the infrastructure, maintaining the infrastructure, designing the operating systems, okay, designing the apps, designing things, building things, making things, writing books. That's what he just described as what manhood is. Now, Charles, he hasn't commented, so he's probably gone. But Charles's thing was being multifaceted. Okay. So it's a number of things, but it's also going back to my former friend who said, okay, well, I decide what your masculinity is. If you put it in someone else's hands, then you hear, well, a real man would do this, a real man would take care of another man's children, or a real man would, be generous with his money. A real man would, a real man would, a real man would. It makes a difference who's giving the definition and who's setting that bar. But I wanted to show Robert's video because we seldom hear today what he said there at the end, and that's that it's about being on purpose, okay? And it's also about making things and building things and producing things. Jason Black gets a lot of criticism. I mean, I think he attacks people sometimes unprovoked, but his thing was being a producer, being a producer, being a producer. Okay. And before he passed away, before he even started addressing the women, Kevin, his thing was work 60 hours a week. So produce, create, make. All right. Passport OG says, I need to wrap this up. He says, modern masculinity, protect, provide, but have zero expectations for women. Cynical Optimist says, I always saw Ali as bold. Aquateki says, appearance over substance. The Equalizer says, real men is typically followed by a description that benefits the speaker. I agree with that. Let's see. Aquateki says, facts at Equalizer. Maggie says, great show, Doc. Maggie, thank you very much. I told Nameless, I do peek in on you sometimes. I think you normally go on the weekends. But I think my my platform here, I think it would make for a nice once I find out some more about what you do, I think it would make, we could have a nice collab at some point as well, because I'm all about information for information's sake here, and yeah, asking questions and just fact finding in a Joe Rogan type of way, but I'm not as big as that, so I wouldn't mind talking to you at some point. Reynolds says, "Oh, well, there again." She says, "I'm on Wednesdays and Sundays. I'd love to collab." Reynolds, that's another thing of I'm not as big as a Joe Rogan yet, so I would love to talk to Psych Hacks as well. He says you need to do a review. I thought you said you need to talk to him. I love to talk to him. That was a powerful video. Yeah, that was a powerful video he made yesterday about men being expendable and talking about kamikaze pilots. And I think, well, it goes back to the mouse utopia. It goes back to the mouse utopia. We're mammals, so hierarchies naturally form, and so I think we naturally form hierarchies of importance. Okay, and Charles is probably gone. He hasn't said anything, but yeah, men make up your standing armies. Men make up your law enforcement. Men are usually the ones to go to war, and men are usually the ones to settle conflicts and to maintain order and restore order. Those are men. So men are expected to be expendable and engage in conflict when it's deemed necessary. Yeah. So you guys like that one? I liked it. Yeah, I'll probably review that one next Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. So, and then it also the other power. Oh, I froze for a moment there on my end. The other power of Dr. Taraban's video is it asked the question, as a man, should I sacrifice myself? Should I sacrifice my life? Should I sacrifice my resources for someone else blindly? Okay. Should I do it blindly? Okay. All right, everyone, let me wrap up. It is it's 8:40. I have to get back up in the morning. And yeah, so thank you all for watching. Thank you for those of you who hung out to the end. Please smash that like button and also consider subscribing to the channel if you are not subscribed. If you want a copy of my book, just use the ticker there. The hardcover is $25, paperback is $22. Use one of those methods there. Make sure you send me your mailing address. And again, I had this epiphany today. Part of my journey was just wanting to be a part of a group, wanting to be on a team with other boys, wanting to be a part of a hunting pack, and that's important for all young men, I think. And when those things go away, when there are no rites of passage, when there are no fathers or no men, yeah, the results are can be catastrophic for everybody. All right, everyone, enjoy the rest of your night. The link to my book and my newsletter are in the description box below. If you're watching on the playback, please let me know what you think in the comments section below. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you all the next time. Bye-bye.